A skier who disappeared over the weekend has still not been found. Organizers are closer to revealing plans for the Sperry Chalet redesign. And Senator Tester officially enters this year's Senate race.
Powered by the Montana Television Network. This is the 10 o'clock news on KAJ, Montana's news leader.
Good evening and thanks for joining us. I'm Don Fisher. The longtime Flathead Valley physician who went missing while skiing near Big Mountain over the weekend has still not been found. Crews continued an extensive search today, and Flathead Sheriff Chuck Curry says they will be back at it again tomorrow come daybreak. The missing skier has been identified as 62-year-old Dr. Jonathan Scott Tolgerson from Columbia Falls. Tolgerson is a longtime practicing physician at North Valley Hospital as well as an experienced backcountry skier.
3 whistles, positive find. Single whistle is just location, find the rally point. Any other communication issues? This is a big group.
The search is now on its 4th day and is centered in an out-of-bounds area just to the northeast of the Whitefish Mountain Ski Resort. The search got off to a tough start over the weekend after high winds, snow, and low visibility hampered efforts significantly, both in the air and on the ground. Several organizations, including Search and Rescue, the Nordic Ski Patrol, Two Bear Air Rescue, and other volunteers have been involved in this search. And switching over to weather, the bitter cold continues for most areas of the region, with a few areas setting record lows overnight, including Kalispell. The coldest was Pole Bridge near Glacier National Park, where they recorded a low of 40 below zero. Kalispell also quite cold at 16 below, topping the old record of 13 below. Butte also broke their record low for the day at 30 below. And although it's warmed up a little bit in our area, it's still pretty chilly out there. But how long will it last? For more, let's toss it over to Chief Meteorologist Aaron Yost, who has a look at our first forecast. Aaron?
You know, we've got another day, maybe 2 days of these frigid cold temperatures set to encompass the region. Right now we're seeing a big lack in cloud cover, and that means we are going to bottom out in a big way once again tonight. Of course, Don just mentioned this morning our record low of 16 below. Tonight I'm hoping we stay in the single digits below zero, not teens, but anything is possible. This cold air mass still very much in place, and we will continue to see that lack of cloud cover, which just allows things to get a little extra colder, unfortunately, but we will see those temperatures moderating by the middle or the end of this week, rather. I've got those details coming up shortly.
All right, thanks, Aaron. And crews at the Kalispell Department of Transportation are removing snow berms throughout Kalispell. Work began at 2 a.m. until about 2 p.m., and that will continue throughout the week until the project is complete. The DOT says they expect a slow-moving operation involving a large snow plower and rotating dump trucks to haul the snow away. Residents and drivers should expect delays in areas where crews are working, as they will occupy a majority of one or more lanes each direction while working. They say motorists should yield to all snow removal equipment and reduce speeds in work areas. And the cold weather that's hitting western Montana can bring out the worst in your vehicle, from batteries to tire pressure and even windshield wiper fluid. Being prepared for this cold can be crucial to keeping your car going through the winter. MTN's Connor McCauley spoke with some Missoula mechanics to help you figure out how to protect your car against the cold.
Every car is different, so each car should be treated accordingly in these weather conditions. Some basic rules can apply to each car, though, when it comes to sub-freezing temps. First question for local mechanic Tim Little: should you warm up your car before taking off in the morning?
Well, that varies from manufacturer to manufacturer, but in this type of weather, we kind of recommend it. Your car needs a few minutes to get things flowing and get things warmed up.
Next up, another big question: tire pressure.
I'd recommend checking them, and especially when it's cold like this, the air molecules are smaller, so they can leak past the rim. A lot of these tires don't have tubes anymore, so it's a good idea to keep on them. Just, once a month, have them checked.
And how about your battery?
Fully charged battery will not freeze. One that is broken down and not charged up well has a potential to freeze, and then obviously they don't work.
Oil levels, antifreeze, other engine fluids, and even windshield wiper fluid levels should also be checked. Even if you haven't done so yet, you should still check them during this cold weather.
If your car hasn't been serviced for a while, get that fluid checked now, and all your fluids and things to make sure you don't have any leaks. These cold temperatures shrink hoses, make coolants leak. I think we just did one this morning that had a coolant leak. It was due to a hole in a hose.
Connor McCauley, MTN News, Missoula.
Glacier National Park administrators say they're ready to start the process of drawing up plans to rebuild the Sperry Chalet, but they also want to review what made the iconic lodge such a special place before it was destroyed by fire last summer. The Sprague fire wasn't even completely out before discussions already started about rebuilding the historic Backcountry Lodge. The Glacier National Park Conservancy has already raised more than $127,000 for the project, and now park leaders are starting the process of designing the rebuild and presenting some preliminary concepts at a program next week. Glacier Superintendent Jeff Mao says the park is excited to start designing, but want to hear from park visitors about what made Sperry such a special place to begin with. The first of several meetings to hear from the public and discuss the rebuild is set for February 28th from 6:30 to 8:30 at the Flathead Valley Community College Arts and Technology Building. And Anderson Hallis Architects of Denver, who oversaw rebuilds, including the Mini Glacier Hotel, will oversee the initial design discussions on this one as well. Senator Steve Daines made a stop at a Kalispell business today, touting the impact of recently passed tax cut laws. Best Buy was one of the many big companies that passed some of their savings onto employees after cuts were passed. U.S. Senator Steve Daines voted in the bill's support and helped champion the Senate Tax Cuts and Job Act. Today's visit is a first of a 4-day tour for Daines, who will visit 17 counties across the state. Daines says the Best Buy's 3 Montana locations employ over 200 Montanans, making them a great example of the new tax regulation success in the state.
This store right here in Kalispell employs about 50 people. And to think that 50 people here are seeing bonuses, $500 to $1,000 in their paychecks because of the tax cut bill, is starting to translate what happened in Washington, D.C. to what's happening on the ground here in Montana.
And Daines will also stop at Thompson River Lumber in Thompson Falls and Cabinet Mountain Brewing in Libby. U.S. Senator Jon Tester paid his candidate filing fee Tuesday, making it official for his re-election effort. And as MTN's Mike Dennison reports, Tester's filing may complete the field in the state's top electoral contest for this year.
Tester and members of his family, including his wife Charla, his daughter, and several grandchildren, showed up Tuesday at the state capitol as he paid his $1,740 filing fee to be a candidate for the U.S. Senate. Afterwards, he talked with reporters about what he'll be working on and emphasizing as he campaigns for a 3rd consecutive term.
One of the things that I've tried to do is try to work with anybody who'll work with me, and I think we've seen that with the work we've done in the Veterans Affairs Committee. I think we've seen it with the banking bill that we just pulled out of committee in a bipartisan way.
Tester is considered by some to be one of the more vulnerable incumbent senators this year, a Democrat in a state that President Trump won by 20 percentage points in 2016. 4 Republicans already are in the race, vying for the GOP's nomination to take on Tester. State Auditor Matt Rosendale, Big Sky businessman Troy Downing, former State District Judge Russell Fagg of Billings, and State Senator Al Olszewski of Kalispell. They've been beating up on Tester whenever they can, calling him a soldier in the Democratic leadership's liberal D.C. Army and someone out of touch with rural conservative Montana values. Tester says that's the same strategy he's faced before. As he puts it, the GOP trying to cast him as something he's not and running against that imaginary person. He says he's the same farmer he was when he first ran, working on behalf of rural interests, and for anyone who doesn't believe it, they can come out to the farm and put in a day's work.
And I invite anybody that wants to come out and pick rock this spring to come on out. We'll give them a pair of leather gloves, and they can get on one side of the pickup and I'll get on the other, and Charlotte can drive, and we'll do a little picking.
Tester may be the last candidate to file for this race, but we still don't know whether a Libertarian may be running, as they have before. The party chair told me Tuesday 2 Libertarians are still considering it. Mike Dennison, MTN News, at the Capitol.
And the deadline for filing is Monday, March 12th. A Darby High School student accused of making threatening social media posts about shooting students is apologizing for his actions. 18-year-old McLean Kaiser appeared in Ravalli County Justice Court this afternoon, charged with intimidation and assault with a weapon, both felonies. This comes after a number of witnesses reported conversations and social media posts where he made direct threats towards the school and referenced the deadly Florida shooting last week. Prosecutors say in court documents that he made these statements about 10 students early last week and said they should wear certain colors to avoid being shot at school. Then, after the Florida shooting last week, he referenced that in a social media post saying, "Coming soon to Darby." Kaiser admitted to the statements to the investigators, but said that he viewed this as a joke. In court today, Judge Jim Bailey said he considered him to be a serious threat to the community and set his bail at $50,000. If he makes that bail, he is prohibited from going on school property or initiating contact with people at the school. His parents were at the hearing today as well and agreed to remove firearms from their home. Kaiser's next court appearance is expected to be sometime in March. If you've been hearing a heavenly choir as you drive by the historic St. Ignatius Mission, then your ears aren't playing tricks on you. It's just practice for an interfaith performance coming up next month to raise money to save the historic mission murals. Practices started early this month for the Lamb of God, a performance of choral and orchestral music relating the life of Jesus Christ. But beyond the impressive combination of talent from many of the churches to mark the Easter season, this production also has the objective of raising money to help the Catholic Mission's continuing fundraising efforts to restore and save the historic murals in the mission. 58 panels that were painted after the mission was built in the 1890s. The production is the work of a number of people from various backgrounds and talents. Janice Cates says the idea was really inspired that took years to come together.
I had this feeling that there was supposed to be a musical production in this valley, all the way from Polson down to Missoula. But I didn't know what it was going to be, and I really dragged my feet because I really didn't want to do it. I knew it was going to be big. So I dragged my feet for about 2 years on it. And then I heard the Lamb of God music, and I knew absolutely for sure that that was the music that it had to be.
Practices will continue every Saturday through March 17th with an open invitational for people to join. The performances of the Lamb of God will be in Missoula March 18th and the Latter-day Saints Church March 22nd at St. Anthony's, and then March 23rd and 24th at the St. Ignatius Mission. Coming up next, Aaron is back with your cold but mostly dry forecast for the rest of the work week, and Hot Springs science students will have the opportunity of a lifetime. Find out what later.